Okay, Penguin Zero. This gun has a huge problem.
I saw something super interesting today that I want to yap about. It's become somewhat of a big conversation even outside of these bubbles that I'm tapped into because even people that know nothing about guns can recognize that
Dude, I want a UFO catcher so bad.
there's something wrong
So
with this
cool.
little puppy here. It's the SIG P320. This puppy's got a real nasty reputation developing. It's got the cheese touch, people talking about it being stinkier than Sir Strumming. I was going to lore dump on you, and I had even made this video setting all of the groundwork and the foundation for everything that had been happening with the P320 up until this point. But I want to show you the video that's sparked this topic for me today that I want to talk about, and it's got a lot of people talking.
I've seen
the firing
yeah,
sequence,
this thing right here.
the actual movement of the sear down is less than 1 millimeter. And we're going to see if it'll set the cartridge off. I don't know. We'll try it a couple times. It might not. This safety might be working, but the other safeties might not have been. So let's see.
What? Bro. So all it has to do is like if your holster is too tight. So if your holster is too tight, it'll just shoot? No.
I don't know. We'll try it a couple times. It might not. This safety might be working, but the other safeties might not have been. So let's see.
Dude, what the fuck?
And if you touch the slide, let's see if we can touch the slide and get it to go off. We have it staged at 1 millimeter or less as measured on the table. So this is just a guesstimate. And if we put some input into the slide somewhere, will it go off again? Will it release? Let's see.
Now, without knowing
Yeah, okay, so I actually watched a video. Let me see if he's going to cover it. I saw a video about the internals of the gun. And apparently the issue is, okay, so SIG claims that there's like 5 different functions before the firing pin can actually go off, right? The problem is a bunch of those steps can be bypassed. So like basically like think of it like mousetrap, right? Like a thing happens, it's like those like dominoes, right? Like one thing happens, which like if that occurs, it causes like a lever to like do a thing, and then that causes like, you know, another lever to do a thing, which like causes like another safety to do a thing. And then finally the firing pin goes off, right? The problem is apparently you can skip steps 1 through 3, which is the whole issue here, is that there's a thing in the back here that physical pressure can be used externally that could actually cause it to go off. Hold on, let me see if, Mommy, can you send me that video? Do you have the video on it? All right, my mom did send it to me. She sent it to me. All right, so we're gonna like kind of switch videos a little bit here. So on this video by Mongoose Guns, kind of goes through it a little bit.
Okay, so as I'm sure you're well aware, there's been a lot of talk around SIG.
I looked. It wasn't. This video wasn't in this one. No, it's not. Okay. So this is the one I saw earlier
about the safety of the P320, and there's been a lot of videos.
So we're gonna like kind of skip it up a bit.
There are either two videos.
So we'll skip like up to here a bit.
P320s, and this is where things start to get a little confusing and a little shady. So one thing that many don't know is that SIG actually continued to roll out unofficial design updates to the 320 fire control unit after the that voluntary upgrade program. And as I understand it, these changes were never officially announced by SIG. Rather, they were brought to light in the gun community by individuals. And I believe the consensus is that the unofficial changes were being made up until about mid-2019. So this means you'll even find design variations in post-upgrade P320s.
So that's really bad because I feel like I saw another legal video on it, and it's basically they can be in big trouble if they don't show that they were actually researching like this possible defect, and they're basically squelching it, right? Because I mean, allegedly, right? Allegedly, if they don't do anything to actually try to address thing, and they try to instead squelch the story and like, you know, say some bullshit, then like it actually is like even worse for them for liability.
From what I've gathered among
Did anyone get accidentally shot? Yes, someone died. Someone fucking died. There was a cop. I think a cop like shot himself in the foot. I think, and then someone died in the military.
the subject matter experts, these unofficial updates included further changes to the sear design and the trigger bar, as well as the striker safety lever return spring, which I'll explain a little bit more later. So as time has gone on, there's been more unintended discharges that have been reported, and that's just opened up more opportunities for investigators, if you will, to dig into what is going on. And in my research, I found...
I'm gonna be real, guys. If this is true, again, if this is true, how could you trust any SIG gun? To be honest, like that's ridiculous. Like this is like literally the worst failure you could possibly have in a gun, and I don't know how you could possibly trust them at this point. It's one thing if there's like a design flaw and they're like, oh shit, there's like a crazy design flaw, we're gonna like replace all the parts and stuff like that, just like send it to us. That's fine because, you know, they're admitting to the mistake and they're like, hey, there's like this weird thing that like this weird edge case that could possibly happen. Santosh, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you for 18 months. And Brother the Steelman, thank you for the 100 bits. It will be 20 years till the military realizes the pistol is a piece of shit. Few more people will likely die or get injured. I mean, if this is true, then it does seem like that would be the case. But my point is that if this is just like a weird design defect, then like, you know, that's something that like could possibly happen, that there could be some weird thing that happens that you don't possibly could have possibly thought that it could happen, right? But when it's already happening, you kind of have to like look into it, right? And if they purposely tried to say like, oh, like we did nothing wrong, this is all user error, but they kind of knew, how could you trust them with anything, right? If that's true.
A lot of good documentation on those incidents that have been reported, and in my opinion, some pretty damning evidence. So that's what I want to share with you now. So for the 322 fire, there's really only two pieces that need to move for that to happen.
Yes, this is what I was talking about. Basically, this entire part in the front doesn't even matter in terms of the like this part is irrelevant to the function of this thing firing, if that makes sense. It's not necessary for it.
And that's going to be the sear as well as the striker safety up in the slide, which is going to be right here. I believe SIG claims there are 5 steps for a discharge to happen, but I'll explain in a little bit why I don't really think that's necessarily the case. So if you look at a happy path order of events of what is supposed to happen in the 320 when it fires, is that you get a trigger pull, which moves that trigger bar.
It's kind of like Mousetrap a little bit. It's like a series of dominoes, basically.
And the first thing that's going to happen is the striker safety lever lock is going to move up.
Like you can kind of see how like the pulling of the trigger pulls this bar, right?
Disengage
which pulls this thing down, right?
Piece you see moving right here. And after that, the sear moves downwards, which is back here. And that's going to release that firing pin and result in a discharge. The reason
the problem
seems why these guns are going off by themselves is that these steps can happen out of order if there's an issue with any of these parts. And that can result in a discharge without the trigger being pulled.
So basically, this back part here. So this is the part, this is the final step, right? So you have like this, which connects to this, and then does this, and then like lets this thing go in, right? So this thing like goes downward, right, from the trigger. So trigger pulls, pull this bar back, and then this thing here goes in, right? Now the problem is, this thing going in is not dependent on this part. Does that make sense? You can use physical pressure to push this, and like he'll show it here.
So if you take a look at the sear in the back, this can move freely with manual force. So when the gun is at rest, there's nothing actually blocking that sear from moving up or down. So the point being is that if that could happen somehow on its own, it would cause the striker to fall forward. And investigations have shown that this can happen, especially with the old sear design that was actually still present in the post-voluntary upgraded 320s. So this sear, if you were to take this apart further, you would see, but The sear is right here, and what sits vertically beneath that sear are two very small springs. And it's been found that in many unintentionally discharged 320s, those sear springs got tangled, causing that sear engagement with the striker foot to be weak and
Oh, that can happen
unreliable.
too.
And you can see already that face of the sear is already very shallow. So there's not a lot of play for vertical movement with the striker foot, and it really requires.
So all that would take is a little bit of pressure from the slide, which is what we saw in the other video, right?
100% contact.
So anyway, this is like the context I wanted you guys to know. So now we'll go back to this one, and then we'll see like what's going on.
Into the slide somewhere. Will it go off again? Will it release? Let's see.
And see, that's what's happening, right? Is that the little bit of pressure on the top of the slide, like pushing downwards, is enough to actually engage that thing.
Without knowing any of the context for why he's doing this experiment in the first place, there's been a lot of confusion from people that don't know anything about the P320, wondering why he put a screw there. Why did he fucking MacGyver this handgun and make it fire by, fondling the slide? There's a lot of people that clearly didn't watch the full video where he explains that, and they do not know about the P320's history and everything going on with that handgun in particular. So now they're just passing this off as like worthless.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna go through it, but the Cliff Notes version is this specific model of gun. There's been many times that it has discharged on its own in people's holsters. This happened to a cop. Like this, there's like videos of this that you can watch online of it going off in his holster. It's been said that it has gone off on many ranges. To the point where like instructors are like, get that shit off my range. Like,
or a useless experiment that demonstrates nothing and proves nothing, saying like
and sorry, a little bit of context into this and like why this is so dangerous, right? Is if your holster is too tight, right, like on the gun even a little bit, that would be enough to actually push the top down, just kind of like what happened in this video, right? And that is like a gun going off on its own while the trigger is guarded is really bad, because when you have there's a lot of ways that you can carry a gun, but while your gun is in your holster, like while you're just kind of going about everyday life, it could possibly be pointed at people. For instance, like if you're sitting down, right, and you have the gun like kind of on your side, it could be pointing slightly forward, right? Or in the case of people that carry appendix, it would be pointing like, right at you. And if you're a dude, it's pointing right at your dick. Right? So like if you could imagine that you have one of these that is holstered appendix, and then the top of it like gets bumped a little bit, and then it fires straight into your dick.
Trigger is fully engaged, so of course he's up there cranking on the slide like I jerk my dick. It's gonna go off. It makes sense. And yeah, I guess that thought does make sense if you're a resident of Stupidville. This shouldn't happen, and it doesn't happen for most guns, but the P320 has been in some serious hot water.
Yeah, that's why this is such a big deal, because this does not happen. This is literally like the worst case scenario. Literally the worst case scenario for a gun is it going off on its own, right? And that's pretty much unheard of in other guns.
For alleged uncommanded discharges and a lot of incidents around this gun firing like while in its holster and such, including the recent death of a 21-year-old airman where it is reported that this firearm discharged, and according to leaked reports, now again these are unconfirmed reports, but according to the leaked reports, the handgun was holstered on a desk and then went off, killing him. It is a problem that has been reported for a long time. And this YouTuber, Wyoming Gun Project, just did a video kind of breaking down, can this gun fire without the trigger being pulled? And I think he did a beautiful job at demonstrating that, and we'll get into the screw and the millimeter that he's talking about there in a moment, but I want you to understand that this is a big problem. And the company themselves said under no circumstances can this gun fire without a trigger.
This is their official stance, is that it cannot fire. Literally impossible. What are you going to believe? What you saw and you heard with your own eyes, or what we're telling you? What are you going to believe? Signed, SIG Sauer.
Yet it is provable and repeatable that it indeed can. There's even been a push to stop using this weapon in an official capacity due to how dangerous it could be. It's a widely reported problem, apparently linked to more than 100 incidents since 2016.
100 incidents of a gun potentially killing someone. Like, actually.
With at least 80 injuries. Even in my neck of the woods here in Tampa, an officer in 2020 had the weapon fire while in his jacket while he was adjusting it. So dude up here just like fucking popping his collar on the jacket or something, fires the handgun, which reportedly shattered his ankle. There are tons of cases that have been reported.
And then all they say, and then when it was reported to SIG, they're like, user error.
And SIG has actually filed a lawsuit trying to like reverse the ban on this weapon from law enforcement, which I think is a horrible look from SIG, by the way. This is just a big safety concern across the board, and it's something that's been talked about.
What are you going to believe? What are you going to believe? What you know or what we're telling you? Also, here's the lawsuit.
Quite a bit for a while now. But yesterday, this video came out from Wyoming Gun Project, and now I just really want to talk about it today because I think it is so interesting and pretty scary.
Basically, we were able to input a millimeter or less of downward movement on the sear and get this slide. By manipulating the slide, we were able to get it to go off and actually fire a primed case 5 times in a row.
That's the whole experiment here in a nutshell. Inputting a millimeter or less of downward movement on the trigger past the pre-travel.
Which is why it kind of, is he trigger or, no, he did it.
And then manipulating the slide in any way. It didn't have to be like hands, by the way. Like the real world application would be if for some reason that trigger was engaged a millimeter or less past the pre-travel and then you put it in your holster, it would go off.
Yeah.
That is answering the question that people have wanted an answer to for a while. How could the P320 fire uncommanded? And his experiment aimed to try and solve that to figure out how it could happen. Now, this isn't some like really wacky specific set of circumstances that are just astronomical odds of happening. Like this isn't unfathomable. A millimeter, that's nothing. That's like the size of Ant-Man's erect nipples when he shrinks himself down to an atomic size. A millimeter or less of movement past the pre-travel, that is something that can very realistically happen over time. Like build up in there. There are so many things that could contribute to that happening, which is probably why there are so many
like gunk in your gun, like you're not like cleaning it as much, or even if you do clean it, like it's still possible for like a little bit of gunk to like 1 millimeter, like yeah, definitely.
Reported incidents of this discharging uncommanded.
I have seen some other videos where people have taken their SIG, they've engaged the trigger just.
Yo, I gotta be real with you guys too. Like, this might be a hot take, but this gun is also fucking ugly. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to carry this. Like, and I'm sorry if you carry one, but they're fucking ugly. I don't know why you would. Out of all of the guns that you could possibly choose, I don't know why you're like, yeah, P320, that's the one for me. Like, I don't fucking understand. Like, it's so ugly.
The tiny bit and touch the slide and it's gone off. Now, it just did that for me right there.
This was the experiment people were doing prior to Wyoming Gun Project, where they would lightly pull the trigger, not fully engaging
one of the ugliest guns.
it, but lightly pulling it and then tapping the slide and it would go off. But that's an experiment that obviously isn't the, most reliable, because you never really know. Maybe you put more pressure than you thought, and it was a little too up for interpretation whether or not it was a trigger pull and such. So it wasn't the most reliable demonstration, and instead Wyoming Gun Project went the extra step of showcasing how it can fire without your finger even being near the trigger, if there is just that millimeter or less worth of movement past the pre-travel.
So I tried to figure out a way, like how can we come up with a way where we can gradually increase the pressure on the trigger to the point where this play in this slide makes a difference, because this is, none of my other guns do this. And for control, let me just show you another handgun that does not do this. This is a Taurus G3. Look how much play is in this slide. Like literally none.
I found that to be pretty weird with how much the slide moves when you slightly manipulate it, like fucking doing sock puppets on the slide, has it bouncing up and down like it's getting hit with raging wind gusts during a hurricane. I don't know if that's normal for the wobbliness to be set to wumbo or what, but I've never seen it in any of the handguns I've shot either. So like, for example, this is just a Springfield XD. And if you go to like move the slide, there's not even like the slightest give in it at all. But again, so like for example, this is just a Springfield XD.
Nice. He uses an XD. I like XDs. I have 2 of them.
And if you go to like move the slide, there's not even like the
I have the original subcompact, not the mod 2.
Slightest give in it at all. But again, maybe that's common in some way, but I'm certainly pretty unfamiliar with a slide moving like that.
Now, why is that important?
Yep.
That is important because the striker mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, let me check mine. Hell, I don't think I've ever had a gun do that. Yeah, there's like basically no give.
Is in the slide, and the sear and FCU is in the frame. So any up and down movement affects the engagement of the sear and the striker hook.
Edson Allen says you have a gun. You recommend getting one. How do I put it? How much do you like getting fucked by RNG? Because if you don't like that, then you should have a gun.
In case somebody doesn't know, this is pre-travel on a trigger or free play. Nothing is happening here. No firing.
Basically, some asshole can try to kill you at any time, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you have a gun.
Process is starting it all. When it hits that wall, that's when it will start lowering the sear.
A super solid explanation.
So if you're cool with the random RNG of some crackhead like trying to kill you, then don't get a gun. But if you're like me and you don't like those odds, you know if you played enough XCOM and you know that like the 1% is not good odds, then you get a gun.
On why the movement of that slide is so odd, and then he explains the pre-travel. Then he measures the pre-travel, and then he puts in the screw being his way of fine-tuning the amount of movement that he could get past the trigger wall. And in this case, it would go off with as little as less than a millimeter worth.
Let's see if we can get it off by just touching, or let it, if we can release the striker by just touching the slide. Now I'm not touching it with my finger.
I see the screw
How
is
about
in
that?
the screw
So this
is in
less
there
than
to
a millimeter,
emulate
so we'll
the
assume the one that is at 1 millimeter will go off. Okay, so let's try it. That time it didn't. And there it did. So that's kind of simulating of it's rolling around in a cop's holster.
Not a whole lot of movement required to have this go off by just having the slide be bumped or moved or in some way jostled around. That's a big concern. And then he addresses people that inevitably ended up talking about like the screw being there. Like, oh, it's just a full trigger pull with the screw. This doesn't really prove anything. I think he gives a good explanation on why the screw doesn't matter. It's there just to simulate what could happen should a millimeter worth of movement happen to the trigger, which again is something that can very easily happen.
I'm going to get some jerk off that comes in these comments go, we just don't stick a screw in your trigger. This is a tool to simulate, to take the human factor out so that you same people that will come into my comments and say this aren't going, you pulled the trigger with your finger, bro. I didn't. The FBI report said there was a ledge on, it was either the sear or the striker hook. I don't remember. And you pulled the trigger a little bit, less than a millimeter, less than 1 millimeter. And it caught on that ledge. And then you holstered your gun. Okay, this is a G-code holster. Then you holstered your gun. And it just went off.
I think that right
Holy
there really
crap.
showcases it extremely well. Also, there are some holsters that do have like a reported issue where when you holster it, like depending on the angle, sometimes it can actually depress the trigger slightly. So if you happen to have one of those holsters and happen to put it in at that angle, and the SIG
The fuck kind of holster does that?
P320, the trigger
That's
gets
scary.
depressed a little bit, a millimeter past the Pretravel.
Dude, I holster so fucking slow. Anyone else do that? Like, I holster super slow because I'm like really scared. I always like, I take my hand, I sweep the entire holster first. I sweep the outside of the holster. I run my thumb on the inside of the holster, make sure there's nothing in there. I move all of the clothes out of the way, and then I slowly go straight down into the holster. Because holstering is free. You don't have to, when you're reholstering a gun, there's, time doesn't matter, right? You're not pressed for time. It's only when you draw that you're pressed for time. So when you're drawing, you have to be like really fast with your draw, but then your reholster can be a minute long and it doesn't matter.
Travel, it could just go off in your holster. Like that is an issue.
Let me see if I can set this on the desk and bang the desk and see if it'll. Now the camera's gonna shake. So, whoa! Let's see what we got here. Did it go off? Sure did. Look at that.
Man.
So how could he set it on the desk and it go off? I just showed you right there. Again, this is simulating what the FBI found as a shelf on either the sear or the striker hook.
Yep.
And it getting caught up on that, or maybe you're putting input on the trigger and you've only gone less than a millimeter through the firing sequence, through the actual movement of the sear down is less than 1 millimeter. And we're gonna see if it'll set the cartridge off. I don't know, we'll try it a couple times. It might not, this safety might be working, but the other safeties might not have been, so let's see.
Holy shit, dude.
It is pretty crazy to see the desk demonstration there with just how little has to be exerted on it for it to discharge once there is that teensy tiny tiddlywink of movement past the trigger wall. Now, of course, I don't think this is going to happen all the time to every P320 out there, but the fact that it can...
All it needs to do is happen once, to be honest. All it has to do is happen once for it to not be worth it.
...happen at all is concerning. It is clearly an issue based on the numerous reported incidents, all of these alleged incidents with this weapon. It proves that there are a lot of circumstances that lead to that little amount of...
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, this is so fucked up because, I'm gonna be real, if your gun's gonna go off in the holster and hit someone, best case scenario, it hit you. Because, like, God forbid you hit someone else with that shit.
Movement there, and it's causing it to discharge uncommanded, and it is something that needs some big looking into and maybe a little sprucing up, because it is seemingly responsible for numerous injuries and, at least in one case, a death. So I just found this to just be an interesting topic and a really great video from Wyoming Gun Project. Again, I recommend you check out the full thing. That's really about it. So yeah.
Yeah, there's multiple videos of this.
I saw something super interesting.
Let me see. SIG P320 police discharge. You can see like let me see if I can find it. Like so you can see like here in this video here, the gun go off over here, and it's just in this holster. So here he's reaching down to like grab this guy's legs, and then you could see it fire, right? Like, here, let's, like, slow it down a little bit. Like, 2.5, we'll zoom in. You can see it, like, around here. Boom. Right? And this is from, like, you can see that it's because, like, the holster is, like, kind of, like, hits, like, his arm or something like that. So he bends down. And it's kind of a little bit obscured by this other officer. But you can see it fire as he bends down. And there's like, there's the projectile, right? You can see it, like, or the case right there. Crazy, right? Yeah. Crazy.